All right, we live. We hot. I wish I could use that. I really wish I could use that. Andy had something that just works better for me than him. What's up, everybody? I'm just still trying to work out the kinks of this, and to get it to go on Instagram Live as well is like a major pain in the ass. I think we are live on Instagram Live. I may not be. I don't care. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode with a show that still doesn't have a name for a reason. I did 3 shows last week. So everybody that has seen this before, thank you. The reaction's been great. A lot of people have listened. The feedback's been unbelievable. Only a couple of negative things, but for the most part, people really enjoying what we're doing. So 3 episodes in, a lot of people subscribing. So if you like what you hear, click and subscribe. I never ever worried about that before, but now that I'm trying to do YouTube stuff, it's like, yeah, subscribe, but just watch them, view the videos, tell me if you like them or not. Get involved in the chat, as a lot of people are right now. It's the first message of the night was let me see here. I can do this here. Dallas Sucks 69 says, come back to WIP, which I said 215-592-9494. Should I come back to WIP? But thank you for subscribing. We're going to do this a couple times a week. I was hesitant to call this a show or really give it any, official structure, because if you don't know, leaving WIP in my contract, I can't be a part of a competitor. So I can't do terrestrial radio in Philadelphia. I couldn't do like Sirius there's a couple other things in there. But if you know the story of Anthony Gargano, and he was trying to leave the Fanatic to go to All City, and they considered that a competitor, and there was a big fight about it and everything else. So I looked at my contract a little closer with WIP, and I feel like that this is not competition. I don't have any advertisers. I'm not trying to do anything like that. And this is not audio in the contract. It says audio focused. This is not audio focused. We're obviously live on YouTube. This is visual. So I'm still a little bit worried they're going to be like, hey, you can't do it, and then try to lean on me a little bit. I don't know. I hope not, because I would like to give the show maybe a name and add some people to it or whatever. So look for that coming up here in the next week or so. I'm still figuring out the technical stuff. I still need to get hardwired, so it in case the internet's slow or whatever, it doesn't affect the product here of the show. So there's still a lot of stuff that's going on, but the most important thing is that I keep putting out the videos and people keep tuning in and giving feedback and enjoying it. So thank you again. And so this is being recorded on Sunday night. It is just the 4th quarter of this divisional game. Kansas City just scored another touchdown, took the lead 27-24. So there might be a lot of people watching this game if you're viewing me live right now, and there's a lot of people viewing me live right now. So if you're watching the game, we'll kind of go over some plays that happen in the 4th quarter as it goes. And if you're watching this either Monday morning or Tuesday or whenever, this is Kansas City right now in the 4th quarter, 27-24. A lot of what we're talking about is not going to have anything to do. It's not really time related or dated. Because on the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully no boys and girls, not only am I going to have on in about, 10 minutes, my first co-host of on the radio, and we'll get into all the details coming up. My first co-host on the radio way back in, I think, 2004, and also a former colleague of mine in the porn industry. A lot of people don't know that I worked in the porn industry at one time, and that's true. I'm not even kidding. We'll explain it all. It's not what you think. We'll explain it all coming up with John. He's going to join us coming up in like 10 minutes or so. I just wanted to go over a couple things here, just because this is live. Looks like Nick Sirianni's keeping his job. Is everybody okay with that? I am okay with it, and I'm not okay with it. Does that make sense? Do I think that he deserves to keep his job? Probably. Wow, the Chiefs just fumbled out of the end zone. I have to be curious to see what this is. It looks like Mecole Hardman just fumbled out of before he reached the end zone, fumbled in the end zone for that touchback. And we're looking at a replay right now. He is down, maybe. I got to look at that. Anyway, so Sirianni looks like he's going to keep his job. Do I think that Do I think that Nick Sirianni is going to lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl? I don't. Do I think that the 10-1 start, the Super Bowl appearance last year, the mistake of having two coordinators that had little experience, they're going to get new coordinators. I can understand why Jeffrey Lurie would want to give him another shot. Reality is Jalen Hurts needs to play better. Nick Sirianni obviously needs to be a better coach, and unfortunately, I think that has more to do with the coordinators than anything else. But that ball might be out. It's so close. But I mean, I don't have a problem with them giving him another year, but I also don't think it's going to work out the way that we all want it to. And I think that's more about the quarterback than anything else. And really this roster. I know everybody wants to talk about the quarterback, and I always want to talk about the quarterback too. But also this roster sucks. Look at the defense. All right, Jalen Carter's going to be a good player. Jordan Davis is going to be a good player, although I heard Baldy say that he shouldn't even be playing because he's so out of shape. Like they have some good linemen. I think the Eagles always do well on the line, but secondary is not good. They don't have any linebackers. Reed Blankenship might be your best corner or your best defensive back. I don't know. I mean, Slay seems like he's a mess, and it's only a matter of time before he totally explodes or the city explodes on him. Bradbury's cooked. And Sidney Brown tore his ACL, which is like a real kick in the balls that he tore his ACL that late in the season, because you saw real promise. That pick six, the speed and the playmaking and the fact that like you noticed him. Blankenship and Sidney Brown's a nice young safety pair. So I feel terrible for the kid, but I mean, it sucks for the team. It sucks next year. You could have penciled him in and said, hey, listen, he may still make mistakes and get beat, but he can make plays, man, and he can hit. So it sucks that Sidney Brown had that happen to him. But this roster all of a sudden, everybody jammed down my throat. The offensive line, best offensive line in football. All right, like I'm not saying it's bad. How much of that was Jalen? And let me say this about Jalen, that the play calling and the simplicity of the offense, like when people say it's Nick Sirianni's offense, what does that even mean? What is the offense? Remember at the end of Chip Kelly and there's stories today that Chip Kelly is getting looked at by NFL teams for coordinator jobs. And really that information gets out there because his agent is trying to get his name out there so he can get an NFL job. I think he went out of college. And the money you can make as an offensive coordinator in the NFL is pretty good these days. I mean, hell, Bill O'Brien's probably going to make $2 or $3 million being the OC at Ohio State. Hey, you can make really good money. I just think he's unhappy at UCLA, and I think he's worn out his welcome. They were ready to get rid of him before he went on a little bit of run at the end of the season. Anyway, remember at the end of Chip when other teams were calling out the plays at the line of scrimmage because he had like 3 plays? And the same thing was happening this year with whatever the hell that offense was. So, it's hard to totally say, yo, Jalen, like, this is all on you. But with another OC coming in here, and now hopefully that's going to get cleaned up, man, he's going to be better. He sensed pressure that wasn't there all season long. He really did. And it caused him to leave the pocket. Not that he was even looking to run, but he just like, if he steps up and delivers a throw instead of like jumping around and trying to run around, like there's guys that are open. So everything's got to be better. And I don't know if this roster is good enough to win anything now. When you kind of look around the NFL, not that it's great, but AJ Brown, Devontae Smith are nice, but is AJ Brown coming back? What the hell is that? Like there's major things that are broken inside that locker room. Major. This has to do more with more than X's and O's. This has to do, sorry for the cliche, with the Jimmies and the Joes. Some of them aren't good enough, and there's major issues going on between coaching, the coaching staff, the players, and the players. I think it's a lot going on there in the locker room. As it was ruled a fumble, and the Bills have the ball now. 2nd and 14, they lose 4 yards on that first down. 27-24 Kansas City. Buffalo's the ball at their own 14-yard line. 11 minutes to go in the game. First shift I did for CBS Sports Radio when I worked my last shift that I had before I got fired was the Super Bowl. So I come on the air at 10 p.m. So you can figure when the Super Bowl starts. I was coming on the air in the second half, and in the fourth quarter, I watched the fourth quarter live on national radio, and I was literally being like, if the Chiefs get another first down, the game's going to be over. It's going to be over. They're going to kick a field goal and it's over. It's exactly what happened with the Bradbury holding penalty. So now being back on the air. And I've been working the Sunday night shift until a couple of weeks ago. So I've been dealing with the Sunday night games all season long because a lot of the stations that you're on when you're on CBS Sports Radio are broadcasting the game. Like if you listen to WIP right now or you listen to WIP on Sunday nights, you would have the radio call of the Sunday night game. So a lot of my affiliates that I have with CBS Sports Radio from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. on Sunday nights were in the game. So you almost are waiting for the game to be over so you have your full complement of stations. But anyway, so that was the first shift that I worked. And if you didn't hear it this past week, it was at the end of the last episode that we did, and it made all the trades. So like I know Kevin Kincaid brought it up or wrote about it because I brought it up in the interview I did with him, the last one. And again, it's if you haven't subscribed, do it. But you can check out all the other episodes that we did. When I had Kevin Kincaid on from Crossing Broad, and I told him because it was the interview that I did on Crossing Broad where I talked about the impending bankruptcy or like the financial problems of Audacy, the company that owns CBS Sports Radio and WIP, where I used to work. And I was just talking about the financials. I wasn't trying to be a dick about it or anything. I mean, I guess I was by bringing it up, but they, you can see right here. John Marks claims he was fired from CBS Sports Radio after commenting. Let me do that screen share thing since, let me see. I'm figuring this out as I go, people. All right. So, yep, here it is. Right here. I'm going to bring John Barbetta on in a second. So there you go. John Marks claims he was fired from CBS Sports Radio after commenting about Audacy's bankruptcy. Well, I was. And I'd said on the air about it that I probably deserved it or I deserved it. And like, I looked at it, I'm like, well, it's not really what I meant. But I mean, you go on a local blog and I'm talking about on their podcast, I'm talking about leaving WIP and I'm being very honest about things. And I didn't rip the company. I said nothing but great things about the company, but I was being candid. And when speaking about the financials of Audacy, I said they don't pay guys like they used to. And that was the problem. And the problem was Audacy was major financial difficulties, a lot of which weren't their problem. A lot of them happened during the pandemic. And not only am I going to get into that, but yeah, so I got a call from the director of programming for Audacy, who is in charge of like 300 radio stations. And he called me, a guy that worked the Sunday night shift, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. to terminate me. Now, he also used to program WIP and be at WIP. And I had somewhat of a relationship with him. He was always very supportive and a big fan of me. So maybe he was calling because he just wanted to say like, hey, this is my decision. Regardless. So there you go. Fired from WIP or from not from WIP, from CBS Sports Radio, which leaves me here because I'd be going on the air in about 45 minutes. But I'm not, as I'm here on YouTube with you. And let's bring him on right now. So his name's John B. And I guess, is that what we're going with? Is that your official name, John B?
I was in a hurry when I was typing.
How do I have more? Well, we're pretty close. I don't know. I it looks like I have more whites than you. Or did you dye your mustache?
No, actually, it just happens to be dark up there.
But you're white everywhere else. You dye your hair, though, obviously.
No, actually, no.
You don't dye your hair?
No.
It's a great head of hair.
I know. Somehow, that's why I keep it maintained. Because
Dr. Glatt is envious of the hair right now, John.
And it is funny. It is funny that you introduced me as your friend who worked with you in the porn industry.
Well, it's true.
Because somehow I'm sporting the porn stash now, even though I didn't back then.
Well, as Bob Reed says,
right.
You kind of do. I didn't even think.
I also look like I should be on like some kind of list. Like anyone with a mustache like that should probably be on a list. Like, if I'm moving into your neighborhood,
you should have to report yourselves to the authorities.
Right.
I don't disagree. All right. Well, so let's explain the story. I was trying to think of the timing of this, John. I guess was it like early 2001 when we started working at National or
Yes.
NTE or whatever they called it about?
2000 was definitely that year.
It was prior to 9/11 because we were working day shift.
Yeah.
During 9/11, John and I worked 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. and 4 a.m. 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we were both Howard Stern fans. We're both radio fans. So we were listening to Stern during that work during 9/11. And then that's when I remember getting up from listening and being like, what are they like? They didn't even know what was going on at first. Right. So then I walked into the break room and that's when you're watching it. And it was crazy. But yeah, so that's kind of how I always timestamp when I started working there. Because that was so the job, it was in the porn industry. Would you agree with that?
Yes. And just one other thing to remember, if you ever want to recollect what year it was, if you recall, it was the year I discovered eBay and I kept going online there. I didn't have the internet at home. So I would go on eBay at work and look at XFL memorabilia. The XFL played in 2001, the spring of 2001. And you would make fun of me for looking up.
You were weird because you were looking for XFL stuff. I was looking for CDs and vinyl, and you were looking for XFL stuff. But you also used to get music off of there too.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, I had discovered eBay, and all of a sudden I was buying like old used ColecoVisions and all kinds of crazy anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Stuff that was like toys I had when I was a kid, and then of course I'd buy it and be like, "What am I doing with this?" And I'd sell it.
Right.
A month later.
For a loss.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, so John's always been a little bit odd. Does this sound better? I'm still trying to figure out the microphone situation here. How about that? Is that better? No, probably not. All right, let me see. Is that good? Can you hear me?
You sound clear to me. Why is someone complaining?
No. I just there's 4 settings on this microphone. Like literally, I have this stuff, but I've never had to use it because I have a studio that I go to every day. So like if I wanted to record something, you just wait till you go into work. So anyway, so the company was, it had a lot of different names, a lot of different. We could never actually say. People would call in and be like, who is this? And you'd be like playing this game. We're like, well, what company are you looking for?
Well,
what maybe company are you?
Maybe you should back up and let everyone know exactly what we did and why.
Well, I'm going to. Okay. Yeah. So I answer. I moved in the center city, and I guess I worked up in Willow Grove for a while, and then I finally cut the cord and said, no, I'm going to get a job in the city. I'm not going to keep. I got rid of my car, and so tell me if you got the job, if you saw the listing in the same way. I went and got the Sunday Inquirer because they had a huge job section. So it was in the Sunday Inquirer. It was a customer service job because I had worked previously for Bell Atlantic before Verizon bought them out or whatever. I had worked for Bell Atlantic. So I had customer service experience. I was an experienced customer service agent, John Barbetta. So they were advertising they were advertising in the Sunday Inquirer. So I just called this number and they're like, come in for an interview. Is that the same way you got the job?
If it wasn't the Inquirer, then it was the city paper, but it was definitely a paper. It was definitely a physical newspaper.
So at what point do you realize that you're about to work for a company, you're being interviewed by a company? So they had adult telephone lines and websites. At the time, they didn't have a lot of websites. It was mostly phone lines, right?
Well, again, 2001, I mean, the internet hadn't really taken over the world yet. A lot of people, I don't think, even had the internet really. And if you did, it was the AOL dial-up. Remember, you get the disc in the mail.
With hours on it.
Yeah, you would install AOL. So, yeah, they mostly focused on 900 numbers, 976 pay per minute numbers.
800 numbers.
Yeah, and they were just getting into the website side of the business. And they had one computer in a separate room where we could test to make sure websites were working properly. And it was a perk that we were allowed to go on there and play on the internet, quote unquote. Oh. And it was Netscape or something.
It was Netscape.
Right.
Yeah. So mostly phone lines. We're dealing with. So we're in customer service. We're in a call center with, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 other people, and we're getting phone calls about pretty much everything. They had these telephone lines. If you lived in the South, for the Bell South states, if you dial 211 on your phone, it would take you to this local date and chat line. So, and it would bill you. It'd be like the old 976 numbers when you would see the TV commercials like 976 joke, and it costs 50 cents every time you call. So you call a lot until your parents saw the phone bill, and then you never called again. They would block it. So really like that. So like you get this little kid dialing 211 and not knowing what they're doing, and then they get a phone bill for like $300. So then people would call us and complain about that, or they're calling in. I like to get on one of these phone lines that we're talking about. So, John, like the phone lines they had like a national party line where you would call in, the men would pay to call in, the women would call in for free, and that's how you got them on the line. Or the paid professionals, where you're calling to talk to the phone sex girls.
Right. So let's paint a picture for the listeners. You would literally look in the local newspaper, like the city paper. There'll be a big spread, no pun intended, in the back of the paper with a bunch of little mailbox numbers, right? It was essentially like internet dating before the internet. You would call a phone line, punch in a code number for like a box that you read that you found interesting. It would take you to a hub, and we would answer the call for the hub, basically, when people were getting billed. If they needed to pay with a credit card, to access a certain line, that's when they got us. And half the time they were annoyed because they were expecting some horny lady to pick up the phone, and it would be us knuckleheads. Yo, national telephone, how can I help you?
All right, so probably, and it depends. When you work, because I worked overnights for a while too, that's when you would really get the guys. The guys just see whatever the 800 customer service number is, and they're thinking they're calling to talk to some woman. So a lot of times they're playing with themselves when they call in, and then they hang up because they hear like customer service John speaking, and they'd hang up. So what I would start doing is pretending I was a woman. The customer service, this is Candy, and they'd be like, "Hey, Candy, what color underwear are you wearing?" I'd be like, "I'm not wearing underwear, sir," and he would like, "F you, F you, F you, F you," hang up.
With Y100 playing in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. So we dealt with a lot of that. It was just a weird job, man. But yeah, so that was my, and so that everybody always asks me when I tell them this, the girls that you speak to, like if you're call in, like speak to the person that like you're paying the 900 number or 1-800 whatever you're calling, right? You're paying with a credit card. What do the women look like? John, so I'll ask you, what did you think the women in the call center, because they would have a call center. So it's like a boiler room where they would put the girls, and it was on the third floor of the building where we worked. I mean, this was in Center City, Philly too. I won't give out the address, but it's in Center City, Philly. So the girls were on the third floor. We were on the fourth floor, but you never really saw them. Like if you saw them, it was because they were leaving the same time as you. You weren't accessing their floor. They weren't accessing your floor.
We weren't allowed to.
No, they did. There was no. You weren't talking to any of the women. No,
it was it was a buzzed like door. Like
yeah,
you had to have a card to get through. Right.
You had to get access to get in. Yeah, you couldn't get in there. But I one time I saw a girl that at one time I was won't say I had a crush on, but she was beautiful. She worked at 9 West in the Willow Grove Mall. I was working at Brookstone. Remember Brookstone, but the seasonal kiosk. I didn't work at, there wasn't an actual store, but the seasonal kiosk for 2 years I worked at. And she worked in the 9 West, the women's shoe store that was right there. Because, they just stick you right in the middle of the floor if you're in the kiosk. And she was gorgeous. And then this is like, I don't know, maybe 3 years later, I'm walking to get on like a break to get Dunkin' Donuts up the street. And like, she's walking at the same time. I'm like, hey, like, what are you doing down here? Oh, I just work down the street. And we keep walking. And then we turn and it's like, oh my God, is she walking into, and I'm like, you work here? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, what floor? She was a phone sex hostess. There you go. That was my very lone interaction probably with any of the hostesses. So.
And most stories you hear are like the people who handle the calls that you think are attractive women are normally something completely different. Half the time, they're not even women that you think you think.
Wow, that also was a case where there were some very feminine men that worked down there.
I don't know if you're familiar with the television show on Vice, the station Vice. They run that show now called Sex Before the Internet. And coincidentally, there was an episode about this last season about 900 numbers in general. how that was a thing around 1990.
It's not a thing anymore, though, right?
No.
Is there anybody out there that's on the chat that has called 900 numbers
within the last 10 years?
Yeah, or even the last 20 years, really. So anyway, that was and then that was pretty much it. Like I moved, and then I quit. I moved, and then I came back, and then I quit again after I was done working. I was done going to school at Temple. And John worked there probably for a year or two, and then he was gone, and he's been settled in on a career the last couple of years, a long time actually now.
Yeah, actually, I was fired from that job while you were still working there. You had moved to a different shift. I was already thrown out because there was this whole big conspiracy drama, and nobody cares. But I was fired from that job.
There was this chick that had an ass the size of the cubicle. She couldn't even get in the cubicle. You remember?
Yes.
And her boyfriend. And they were like bullies. They would try to bully cigarettes from people and stuff like that. And they intimidated people. And what did they do? They were looking like in the supervisor's desk or something, and you didn't report them, so they fired you.
Yeah, pretty much. I got fired for not getting involved. Right? I was trying to just stay out of all the problems.
Isn't that why you have a job like that, so you don't get involved in any of that?
Yeah. But you moved up in life. You became like a manager.
I was supervisor. I was a supervisor overnight shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it was a great career. It was a great career.
Well, that launched the trajectory, of things to come.
It sure did. Literally. All right. So, and then from there, you also, because you're a big radio fan, the first shift that I ever did in radio was first shift. The first show I ever did in radio was at a station called WNJC, which is 1360 AM in South Jersey, in Sewell, New Jersey. And you would buy the time. So John, I think I was paying like $100 an hour every week. And you would go there and you would have the hour. They had a producer. It was like World War II type equipment, but there was a phone line. So if you were in that area, we would get callers and things like that. And we did a 1 hour show for I don't know how long, couple 18 weeks or something like that. I believe it was a part of, I did it for school. I did it for I did it for a project. It was like an independent project where I could get credit for doing it. And then I had to write up a show log every week. And then I had to submit. At that time, you recorded onto a cassette. And then I would have to put the cassette and run it through this software that would put it on a CD, burn it into a CD. So that's how I would have to air check it back then. That was kind of the story. We did like a non-sports show, even though we were both big sports fans. We kind of just did a nonsense show that was about everything. And then that was it. And then we went our separate ways.
We would drive to Deptford, show up probably 10 minutes before the shift was supposed to start. I'm guessing it was 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., something along those lines, on like a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night, whenever you would book it. And there was some internet presence involved, because I remember you could look at the numbers of who was following the stream. Again, this is like 2005 maybe. I remember we would look like, 9 people were listening online, and they were probably our friends, essentially. Anybody who even knew we had a stream,
there wasn't anybody outside of our family or friends that were listening. Correct.
And I remember I would try and set up name that tune type of games and contests for people, but they would
tapes, right?
I would record stuff on cassette, whatever. We would bring it in on cassette. But the problem was there was such a delay. People listening to us were about 30 seconds, 40 seconds behind.
Yeah.
And unless they were listening on their phone, it never made sense. There was always confusion. We could never communicate with people who were calling in.
It's our first failed bit.
Yes.
Name that tune. Well, that's fantastic. All right. Well, John, you're in the city. How was the snowstorm in the city? A lot of snow, a lot of messiness.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I have a car that broke down weeks ago. It's still broken down.
You had a car that broke down weeks ago in 2001 too.
I know. I always have a car. That's because I make just enough money to live downtown, but not enough money to have a real car, because why would I want a real car and park on the street downtown? It's a catch-22. If you have a nice car, you want to pay for parking, and now it becomes a $500 investment between insurance and parking. Right. So I always have a junk car, And of course, Christmas Eve, it died on me. And I've had it sitting in the same spot. It probably has a foot of snow on top of it right now. The only bright side is it's on the same street as my mechanic. I'm just not sure how I can get it up the street to the mechanic. I'll figure that out.
Just leave it. You'll be fine. Well,
probably will.
Yeah, just like the other ones before. Well, I obviously live in the suburbs now. You know what I noticed? That there's no kids, and I hate to be the guy that's like, oh, back in my day, there's nobody that walks the neighborhood trying to shovel to make money. I pay a bunch of kids $20 to even help me shovel, and I have a snowmobile. I have a snowblower that was from the previous owner that he's like, yeah, you can have the snowblower. I didn't even get it out this time because the snow was so light and fluffy that, like, it's just like, it's not worth it. Sometimes it's just easier if you do it with the shovel. But like, I'm hoping to see some kids walking around and like, listen, throw them each $10 and say, hey, just help me with this stuff or whatever, even like $20 to do it. Nobody's doing it. There's no kids out there trying to make money. I would even have like my Venmo thing. I'd be like, you can Venmo me if you don't have any cash. I'll shovel you out. I don't know what it is. These kids don't want any money. But anyway, yeah, to do it all myself, the shoveling. So, yeah. But I did go sledding today, John.
Someone needs to invent a half shovel, half hair dryer.
So I think they actually have. I actually think they have heated shovels now.
Oh, they do. Okay.
I think they may. Wouldn't that make a lot of sense? Like hot knife through butter.
You would think. I have to check my Home Depot.
No, I honestly think they do. Someone had said this to me before, I believe. But all right, so I went sledding today. When was the last time you went sledding? A while ago?
Sledding, I couldn't even tell you when I was a child.
Really? So you haven't went as an adult?
No, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
All right, well, here you go. I'm sharing the screen again. Here's one little video right there from my Instagram. Oh, look, the kids. Here they come. Woo! It's actually a really big hill. They went flying. But to the right over here is a what do you call it? How do I stop sharing here? Sorry. Still new at this. So, but there's a fence. So you have that one alley right there where like you don't go into the parking lot. You don't smash into this fence. And then there's like a pole. So it's like that. I don't know what I'm doing. My kid jumps on the sled and just goes down and goes head first into this fence like a crash test dummy. Boom. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm going to get him killed before I even start this. But then, so I had to go down and I had to monitor the fence so no kids went head first into it. And I was taking a lot of contact because it was steep. And if you don't hit this one narrow area, then you're going in the least a part of the fence. So I was good. I was having to literally, I was like a defensive back there, swatting them away, like a linebacker, tackling them so they didn't do it. But that's
set up a mattress, throw a mattress in the corner so people bounce off of something.
No, that's what you needed. That's what you needed was a mattress.
And I'm guessing the snow is too hard for you to move to actually use the snow as a buffer.
Yeah, no, it's just like it's a chain link fence. So there's not a whole lot you can do it. All right, so right now in the game, have you been watching a lot of these playoffs, the NFL playoffs?
Yeah, off and on. Yes.
The Chiefs are if you're viewing this live, Chiefs are up by 3, just over 2 minutes to go, and the Bills are driving. And I just want to remind everybody out there that I took Josh Allen over Wentz. At one point when Wentz was the toast of the town, I drafted Josh Allen in a fantasy football league. And people literally wanted to run me out of town.
Oh, jeez.
Because I said I took Josh Allen over Wentz. Like, oh, you're a hater. And I'm like, no, I think Josh Allen gets lots of rushing touchdowns and he's really good. And then Allen had that breakout year that year. But we're down to the 2-minute warning, and Buffalo's driving. Where do they have the ball? John, I didn't see.
Yeah, I haven't noticed either because I wasn't looking until you brought it up.
All right. Well, and I think I'm a little bit behind because I'm on one of these Roku TVs, so it's not the standard TV. Do you still have traditional cable?
Oh, of course.
You do.
Oh, yeah.
So you haven't went to, hey, I don't need cable. I can do the other apps and things like that.
No, no.
I'm scared. Well, I have apps and things like that. Like the Roku TV, I just use the Xfinity app, and so then I don't have to pay for another box. And then I have Hulu and stuff on this. But I want to go away from the regular cable. I'm just afraid to. I'm afraid that I'll do it, and then I'll be like, all right, and then I'll have to pay the early exit fee that they charge you, and then I'll be like, no, I like cable.
Well, then you want to watch like something on FS1 or CBS Sports, and they're probably.
But can't you get that on YouTube TV or some of these other things, or is it one of these things where like you can never have the right tier to where you just have to get everything because it's like, oh, I like this, but like FS1's not on this tier, and then you get another tier that has FS1, but A&E's not on that tier. They fuck with you, so you have to get the main tier, otherwise you're missing out on stuff.
I want to see what's on H&I, like on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Who knows what tier that is?
Do you watch Golden Girls at all? It's on MeTV, I think.
Oh, I'm not sure, but I did stumble upon the very first episode of Sanford and Son was on earlier today.
The first episode?
Oh, yeah.
On MeTV, or is it on Nick? One of those stations.
Yeah, but it wasn't MeTV.
So was it different in that? Were the characters different? Like I think wasn't there a different Bubba in the first season or two?
Oh.
There were definitely a different. No. Aunt Esther's Woody was a different character, or Woody wasn't there, and it was like her brother or something.
I only watched about 10 minutes, so I didn't see a lot of other characters, but I do remember what you're talking about. Yes, they had some different actors, and it's like watching the early Happy Days with the brother who disappeared.
Yeah, what happened to him? Never heard from him again.
Nope.
It's not like Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch. Remember you a Brady Bunch fan?
Cousin Oliver, yeah, with the glasses.
All right, who's worse, Cousin Oliver or Cousin Pam? Cousin Pam's from The Cosby Show. So when The Cosby Show, when it was running out of steam, and I know you're not allowed to talk about The Cosby Show anymore. It's still a great show. It was when they brought in Raven-Symoné, and so first Denise came back. Like she disappeared. She came back with a husband, with Martin.
She did a spinoff, didn't she?
Right. And then she did A Different World, but then she came back from it. And then she came on with Martin. She was married. And then she was also, and he has a daughter. So then that's when they came and moved in. And it was Raven-Symoné, because he was always away. Martin was sometimes away at work. So they brought her in. And then Cousin Pam was like a niece or a cousin or something from, that needed to come over from Brooklyn. Or from somewhere. So she came in and she lived there, Cousin Pam. Cousin Oliver's much worse than Cousin Pam. That's for sure.
Somehow, whenever I end up sitting in with you on a show, we talk about horrible old television shows.
But it's not horrible. Everybody can relate. You don't watch...
Not the later Cosby shows. Everyone gave up by 1987.
No, what's the Urkel show? Family Matters. You won't check out a Family Matters?
Oh, that one I don't watch. I don't even know if they run reruns of that.
Oh, it's on. I forget what station it's on. I watch it.
Although when I get up to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m, Renegade is on.
Is it really?
With a Lorenzo Lamas.
What, do you leave your TV on all night?
Yes.
What the hell's wrong with you? All right, so it's fourth and 9. Where's the ball? About the 30? All right, 4th and 9. So
they're going to kick a field goal.
Yeah, the Bills are going for a field goal to tie the game, which must really, man, you want to get a touchdown there, obviously. 44 yards. I don't know where you are on this, Barbetta. Or John.
And of course
it's
no good. So actually, this begs a question for me in general. Of course, here he misses it, so it doesn't help my argument. But when people talk about analytics, whether it's in football or baseball, but mostly football. Right, they say, oh, if it's 4th and 4, whatever, the odds say it's better to go for it here. But I see people fail all the time, right? I feel like they're failing 8 out of 10 times. So is anybody updating these analytics, or are they still looking at the same manual from Doug Peterson, like 2016?
I think the analytics automatically updates itself. Analytics is too smart to go with the analytics from 2016. I think it has to. I think it.
But everyone's failing. I see guys failing on 4th and 3 all the time. So it's got to start to go below 50%, right?
Yeah, the analytic changes.
Right.
And so Buffalo's 2 timeouts. They'll be able to. If Kansas City gets a first down, the game's over.
That's gonna be their Scott Norwood moment. Their new Scott Norwood moment.
They're gonna get a first down and end this game. So. 9 yards by Pacheco. I love the way he runs, by the way. He's awesome. I drafted him in every fantasy football league last year because I was expecting this kind of player. So I had him a couple leagues this year as well. Man, Buffalo just can't. They're cursed. They're cursed. This is the year Kansas City wasn't good all year long. People have been writing off Kansas City. I know Buffalo got written off too, but then remember they were like, oh, they're the hot team. Pick them to go to the Super Bowl. Buffalo Eagles. Man, that didn't work out.
Taylor Swift conspiracy.
Yeah, so I guess the Taylor Swift thing didn't screw. Well, Travis Kelce definitely wasn't the same player, dude. I'm telling you that. Yeah, he's a year older, but when you fall in love like that, it takes everything out of you. I'm telling you, he probably didn't want to go to work. He probably just wanted to stay. He's like, oh, I miss her. Oh.
No, people will say the conspiracy is the league wants the Chiefs in because she brings big television.
Oh,
numbers.
like whatever. They're in love. They're miserably in love. Awesome.
No, I mean the upset win. I'm saying.
Yeah.
This game.
No, I know what you're saying. So that's what people are going to be talking about.
So what was it on Twitter yesterday where it was some like ESPN screenshot where it was an advertisement for. I'll read you the advertisement. So this was posted on Saturday early. It was like Reba McEntire, Usher, and Post Malone are slated to perform at San Francisco 49ers versus Baltimore Ravens Super Bowl matchup on February 11th. And that was before the games on Saturday. So, of course, I went right to my DraftKings and did a parlay on the Ravens and 49ers.
Nice.
If the fix is in, I might as well make a couple bucks off of it. Yeah.
You're damn right. All right. Well, Kansas City's gonna win this. So now you're looking at Buffalo. Buffalo's out. Kansas City at the Ravens. I can't wait for that game because Kansas City they didn't look good all year. Their offense looked brutal. Their defense.
But they have me at wide. I'm wide receiver. I just happen to be off tonight.
And you know what? They weren't dropping the ball tonight.
Yeah, go figure.
Which is amazing. This was a good game. Apparently, Allen had a wide open receiver there, and on third down and didn't see him. Oh man. Well, listen. This should follow Josh Allen, right? When we're looking big picture quarterback talk with whatever they're going to do tomorrow with Stephen A. and Skip and what all those shows, right? Like today, did Josh Allen play poor enough to where he needs to be the focus and the attention tomorrow? Like, no, but he needs to be the focus and attention tomorrow. You're on your home field. You're against a team that really, hasn't played great. I think they played fantastic tonight. They were good, but you got to start winning some of these games. You just do. Same thing. Justin Herbert's going to reach this territory where he's got to start winning games. He's going to make the playoffs. You got to start winning games, right? Like you get to a point where the stats and the style points and how talented you are doesn't matter. And that's kind of where I am with Josh Allen right now. I love Josh Allen. He's an unbelievable player. I love his talent, but you got to beat the Chiefs here. You got to be, and they're fortunate too that the Chiefs had a fumble out of the back of the end zone. There was a touchback, and Buffalo got the ball. They were fortunate. They would have been down 2 touchdowns at that point. So I think Sean McDermott gets whacked here, John.
They'll think about it. Do they have a high-profile defensive coordinator? I don't know who runs their defense.
Leslie Frazier. No, they fired Leslie Frazier. No, it's McDermott. McDermott fired Leslie Frazier, and he was the defensive coordinator this year.
Oh, right. Because they also changed offensive coordinators at one point, right?
During the season, yeah.
Yep.
Joe Brady came in and started calling plays and stuff. They fired Ken Dorsey. Yeah, McDermott may not make it out of this. As crazy as it is, who did the Bills beat last week? Oh, the Steelers. And the Steelers were like they're the last playoff team almost. It feels like to get in. So that was. I'm not going to give them an impressive win over the Steelers. This is a game you got to win. Period. If you're going to get to the Super Bowl in a year where the league's down, this is where you gotta. When people aren't expecting you to be there with 5-6 weeks left because your record's not good and you don't look like the team that you thought you were. This is where you have to take advantage of it. And they went on a run. The Chiefs weren't on a run. Now they are. So, wow.
I mean, they made the same mistake that the Eagles did with the Super Bowl, somehow letting a Chiefs team beat you that doesn't have a wide receiver. Like, I don't know what kind of coverage are you playing?
Yeah, it's old Andy wide receivers.
Yeah.
Right? Like this was with the Eagles with Andy. What would you do with Sirianni, John?
it's a strange situation because I can't tell if it's his fault or the quarterback's fault. Like, if somebody had told me that gangsters had kidnapped the family and said, tank the last 2 months or else, I wouldn't know. Was it Sirianni's family that was kidnapped, or was it Jalen Hurts' family that was kidnapped? Because they both just looked dreadful. Like,
Yeah.
I can't figure out whose fault it is, because maybe they didn't coach a certain way because Hurts wasn't following the coaching, right? Who knows?
Hurts is missing open guys. We all saw it. The offense also looked terrible, but it's the chicken or the egg. Is the offense look like that because they're trying to manage Hurts? I mean, listen, I don't know. To me, it was more about coaching than play, but also Hurts is on the clock, man. I know he just got that new contract and everything else, but here's the thing that hurts so much. He was so good the last half into the playoffs last year, the Super Bowl year. He was so good. And during the Super Bowl, all the work that he put in the passing game, a lot of people thought that, and like someone like me said, can he be a good enough passer in this? Can he not rely on the run so much? And he was a good enough passer. He was awesome last year. He was awesome in the Super Bowl. And you didn't have it this year. You didn't. They were obviously defending him differently. But he looked spooked. He looked like he was afraid of the rush, or he was preoccupied by the rush. Nick Bosa talked about it. Bosa after the 49ers game, and he had said that here's the template to beat him. Rush him up the middle. He thinks that he's looking at the rush. He thinks there's a rush every time, and it's true. It really is. So to see him regress like that in the passing game, and then that's where I blame the coaching and the play calling. They try to go to Jalen Hurts, the runner, too much. And I don't know how injured he was. And people tell me, like, I don't want him running. He showed last year he can win with the throw. There's too often where he's doing the design run, especially late in the year where they were trying to get something going with the offense. And we're just trying to run him, almost like Josh Allen style. So John, I'm with you. Like, I'm concerned about a lot of things. This just isn't the quarterback. This is the coaching. This is the quarterback. This is now the rest of the roster. It's amazing how you go 10-1, and you're like, wow, we're going to win the Super Bowl to this.
And it doesn't help that the defensive players forgot how to tackle. Like, wow, the tackling became atrocious. They forgot.
Everything became atrocious. Everything. I watching the last game against the Bucs, really the last three games. And then the Bucs game where it's like, well, how can you not consider firing Sirianni with how his team came out and played? It's like they were going through the motions. I'm not going to say they quit, because a lot of times when you say they quit, that means that they weren't out there trying. But a lot of these guys, and they probably didn't even realize it, they're just going through the motions. They know the team's not good enough. They know the team's broken. Whatever the hell was going on, whether they didn't trust the defensive coordinator, whether they didn't trust the offensive coordinator, whether they didn't trust Nick Sirianni. When A.J. Brown comes out and says we got to start trusting our coaches, obviously there's internal things going on. I don't know how you fix it. You're bringing back A.J. Brown. Is this going to continue in the next year? If he had problems with Jalen, it is not good. This Eagles situation is not good.
Yeah, because didn't A.J. Brown start complaining, for lack of a better term, while they were still winning? Didn't it start with the eye rolling and all that while they were still winning? Yeah.
He was yapping at Jalen, and Jalen was telling him, I got it. I don't know if that's when the iciness started. All I can say, and I'm not a reporter, all I can say is I had heard a couple of weeks after that, their relationship's not very good right now. And I heard it again later, and that's really, I hadn't heard anything in the playoffs or anything like that. But if you just go back and think about it, when did they ever talk about each other? When did Jalen ever stick up for AJ? When did AJ ever stick up for Jalen and say, like, hey, no, Jalen's played fine? Or what was it? The game that he played where he was sick, if you remember. I forget which game that was. They asked him after the game, and he said nobody cares about him being sick or something like that. Fans don't care about him being sick. We lost. Instead of being like, listen, we're struggling right now. Jalen obviously wasn't feeling well, but that's not an excuse. We got to win this game. No, he was like, nobody gives a damn about that. So there's something going on there. There's something going on with that team. And I think there's something going on with the quarterback and the wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, should we be shocked? It's a wide receiver who was a malcontent on his last team and asked to be traded, right? Wanted to be traded.
We should not be.
We see
You
this
should
stuff
not
around the league all the time with wide receivers, specifically.
Well, listen, John. Just so you know, this week we're gonna have a couple. I have a lot of guests that I have lined up, and they're all. I only go for the big names. I don't know if you've noticed that. I brought you on here,
Obviously.
but Herb from Northeast Philly joined the program. It was actually the very first show because I needed to check on him. My last WIP show, John.
Mm-hmm.
We had called Herb. He didn't call in. We called Herb. He was in the hospital. He was receiving oxygen. You know when you're in the hospital and the alarms are going off?
Yeah,
and no one really cares because they're just like alarms. Like no one comes rushing in. They just always go off.
Right. It sounds like the French fries are ready.
Well, you worked at McDonald's. One of your past jobs is McDonald's, right?
Roy Rogers, to be precise.
That's right. You worked at Roy Rogers. Roy Rogers. Where was this Roy Rogers?
Tacony in Philadelphia.
It's
Torresdale Avenue and Cotman Avenue.
Did it have a free fix and spar in it?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I worked in the back making chicken.
With the cornflakes, that chicken? Roy Rogers chicken was good.
Mm-hmm.
Problem was, after a while, you couldn't find them anywhere but rest stops.
Yeah.
I don't think I know they still have them because I've actually Googled this before. They still have Roy Rogers in some places.
There's a rest stop in Allentown that has one.
Allentown Service Plaza has it, but no, non-service plazas. They still have them.
Not around here.
No, they still have them though. I'm looking it up right now. They have it. Where to find us? Oh, look at all these. They have Frederick, Maryland. A lot of Maryland. A lot of them in Maryland. All right, well, there you go.
I wonder what's easier to find, a Roy Rogers or a sit-down Pizza Hut? Like a Pizza Hut where you can sit in. There is one in Jersey, in South Jersey here.
There is?
Mm-hmm.
Probably easier to find a Pizza Hut.
But no more buffets. So that was the best part of the Pizza Hut, the buffet, the lunch buffet.
The lunch buffet, yeah. I think that's why they stopped it. It wasn't a good value. I forget how much you paid, but you just go pretty much eat 2 pizzas.
Right. Well, then, and COVID completely knocked out the buffet.
Oh, is that what happened?
Altogether, yeah.
Well, not at Golden Corral, that's for sure. I met an owner of a Golden Corral up in Bucks County. I think the Ben Salem Golden Corral that had a disturbance when it was a steak night or fillet night, and someone started taking a video and there's chairs being thrown and stuff. But yeah, I met him I was actually in the water in Ocean City, New Jersey. Made sure my kids were all right and waiting. And yeah, I hear like Nick Foles tattooed on my back, so it's hard to mistake me. So it's like Johnny Marks, and I'm like, oh hey, what's up? And it ended up being the owner of the Golden Corral. Golden Corral's good. That's a good place up there in Ben Salem. Golden Corral. They'll get all you can eat. All right, so I'm trying to bring this up anyway. So Herb from Northeast Philly wants to come on this week. So he's got this thing going on where he thinks that he's going to write a book. And I know you don't listen. You work in the city and you live in the city, so you don't listen to a lot of WIP or a lot of the radio anymore, correct, John?
Not during the day. I'm just not able to, unfortunately. So most of your shifts were afternoons. I rarely was able to actually listen.
Well, Herb's a big star, and and I let me see if I can click on here. But I had him on for the first episode. It drew rave reviews. So then he texted me. He thinks he's writing a book, like his memoir. Herb from Northeast Philly. So in 2012, you see Herb right there. He was in the Wendelstadt Umpire School in Ormond Beach, Florida. Ormond Beach is north of Daytona. I was down there. I was down in northeast Florida before, Jacksonville and South. It's actually very nice. But Herb was in the Harry Wendelstadt Umpire School, John.
So how long does that take? Like what kind of curriculum are we talking? How long of a program?
I would think maybe like 12 weeks or something like that.
A couple hours a day?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would think I'll ask him next time he comes on. Actually.
I mean, what kind of ball are we talking? Are we talking like fast pitch?
No, so this is the umpire school. I went to. He moved in 8th grade and went to Appler Horsham, but he was a grade below me. But I went to school with Alan Porter, who has been a major league umpire for, I don't know, maybe 10 years now, 15 years now, maybe even that long. And I remember when he went down, he started umping in the Florida State League.
Mm.
And it was like, wow, he's really going for it. That's what you got to do. You go to umpire school, and then you just got to get your first job and work your way up like anything else. So this is the place where you go. Herb told me a couple of guys that he's in there with are major league umpires.
So
Herb,
who's pitching and hitting at the school? Like, in other words, who are the people you're watching and actually calling strikes on? Can they pitch?
So I'm sure there are games. Maybe it's with high schools or colleges or things like that. So you probably learn the rules, and then you do like practice, and then you start going through games. Again, a great question for Herb when he joins us coming up here this week. But Herb wants to, he wants to write his memoir, and he's serious about it. By the way, he texted me. Well, he calls me, but I normally don't answer it, and I'll call him back later. But he texted me. He wants Herb Dittinger's number because he wants to find out from Diddy, from Ray Dittinger. Ray Diddy. He wanted to find out his number because he said, "Who's his publisher? You have Ray Diddy's number." And I'm like, "No, I don't have his number, Herb. Sorry," because he wants to see who publishes his book, so Herb can publish his own book. So I don't think it's likely to happen, but he has a lot of stories. He can just keep coming on here with me. There he is.
Isn't there a company that advertises on television for like publish your book with us? I think they're like a Christian company or something.
You just kind of, he's like a Stern radio bit, John.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
But he can still call them.
Right. But yeah, no, right. So we have to see where it goes from here. There's poor Herb in the hospital. He sent me that picture. So when he called, John, I never even finished the story. When he called my last show on WIP, it was kind of like, all right, it's like 4:30 and we haven't heard from Herb yet. And Jack Fritz was like, well, he's in the hospital. And it's like, well, what the hell's wrong with him? Is he okay? So Jack's like, well, call him. So we called him and he starts talking. He's like, yeah, Johnny Marks. And the alarms are going off in the background, like beep, beep, beep. And he's gasping for air. And it's like, holy crap, Herb. And I'm trying not to laugh because he's in bad shape. But the alarms are also going off in the, I don't know. I felt bad. That was the last time I talked to him on the air. So I texted him to make sure he was all right. And I'm like, oh, listen, if I do a YouTube thing, come on with me. And he's like, absolutely. So he came on with me. It was a great success. But that was Herb. He sent me that picture from there he is, right? That's really that's kind of what he looks like. He needs to lose some weight. He's become very, very pear-like in that picture right there. So anyway.
What was his health issue? Did he get into it?
He had, what did he have?
Or was he just like E.T.? He was dying along with the Eagles season.
No, maybe that was a part of it. He had pneumonia, I think.
Oh, geez.
Pneumonia, and so they had him on oxygen and steroids and things like that, and he was okay. But he was in bad shape for a while because listen, Herb's 68 years old, and he has health problems. He has diabetes. I think he's type 2 diabetic. So I worry about Herb. He slipped and fallen before. I try not to laugh.
He doesn't have a 6-pack. He's got a 30-pack.
No. He was coming out of a porta potty and he slipped. He hurt himself.
That old cliche.
Yeah, what really happened with Herb? But anyway, Herb wants to join us this week because he needs advice on the book. He had called. He texted me the other night. He was on with Tom Kelly, TK, on WIP, and TK he hung up on him. And I was like, he was mad. So I'm like, why did he hang up on you? Herb doesn't understand why. I would have a better idea. So I texted TK, like, why did he hang up on you? And he said he was just rambling on about a book. So he's already trying to talk to WIP people about it.
Has anybody seen any of his writing skills? Does he have any writing skills at all, or is
he's not writing a book?
Or is he thinking he's going to talk to a transcriber?
Right.
And
he needs a ghost author.
I see.
Are you busy? Maybe I could send Herb over your apartment.
It might not be a terrible idea to work with him briefly.
You can make some real money. All right. Well, there you go. So Herb this week, and I don't know when that'll be. John, I've been toggling between 9 p.m. and 1 p.m. in doing it. And I know that I should probably have a set time, whether it's doing this 9 p.m. or at 1 p.m. But some days I just can't do it at 9 p.m. or some days I just can't do it at 1 p.m. So I'm kind of toggle between the two because listen, if you're still out there watching or whatever, you subscribe, you can watch it whenever on YouTube. It should be on Instagram and Twitter right now. Twitter live, so you can archive it, but you can just go to the YouTube and subscribe. It's John Marks Media at John Marks Media, and you can subscribe and tell us how great this is. But anyway, Herb called in and he asked about the layout and said it was 17 sections and 100 pages. Herb and there he goes. Yeah, so we'll find out with Herb this week. We're gonna get him on.
Oh, so it's done. It's a done deal then. It's already 100 pages. Is that the finished product?
I would assume that there's nothing written. He's just talking about this. Herb has a lot of stories, or sometimes you can catch him in the lies in the stories, and sometimes you can't.
Well, the other problem is every week's a new adventure too. So like you get the 1 edition, and then you got to get the revised edition 6 months later because it's a whole new thing, right?
But you just wait a year. That's what you have to do, and you just write it, and then after a year, you republish it.
It's like the Eagles Encyclopedia. You know, of course, you put it out, and then they win a Super Bowl, and then you got to update it.
I mean, you have to.
Right.
You have to. People are asking, are you sitting outside? Do we get you thrown outside?
Me? No, I'm inside.
You're inside?
Yes.
Now, do you have a roommate? Are you living with a woman?
No, not anymore.
You're not?
No.
So you're currently single?
I am single, yes.
So for all of the women or the men out there that would be interested in getting a hold of you, you have no way of getting a hold of you? You don't have like a burner account or anything that people could?
No, and it is funny because I was looking at the comments section over here and I realized like, oh, I don't have a YouTube account.
Well, I never did anything with YouTube before I started doing this, so it's not like that I had this before.
You need a YouTube account to add to the comments. Is that correct?
Yes, you have to sign in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you would have to say no, and it was very easy. I forget why I did it, but it just recommended like, hey, then you can have your actual, like YouTube.com/@John Marks Media. So you can actually, because that's what all my other socials are. So yeah, no, so it's just a Google account, John. Do you not have a Google account?
I have some Google emails, yes.
There you go. So you could be commenting on some kind of Google account that you have.
Oh, I just got to figure out which one it'll like send me a text to and all that nonsense. Because now you got to like go through 3 layers of security to sign into an account. So
right, you're old school. You like the Yahoo. You're just you're a big Yahoo emailer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right. Now, do you still call it? And we try to wrap this up after about an hour, and we've been on for an hour. Now, are you still calling 900 numbers, John, or anything?
No,
like
but
that,
I'm curious to find out if they still have them. What they charge? What do they charge nowadays? Because with the internet, what are people spending on a phone?
Well, it's got to be $5 a minute, right? With inflation.
I mean, you got to really be into that very specific niche to spend even $3 a minute.
Yeah, it was like the job became like, it's like, wow, this is really interesting, to being really weird, to being like, I need a new fucking job. Like this just sucks. Like when you would get people that would call in and be like, block my credit cards, block my credit cards, block my credit cards, because they were addicted to it. And like their wife found the credit card charges, or they've charged credit cards like 20 grand because they're addicted to phone sex. And it's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I guess you see the same thing if you're like, you had mentioned DraftKings before. Like, you obviously gamble responsibly, and most people gamble responsibly, but not everybody gambles responsibly. And you can't use credit cards on it. So it's not like that you're charging up cards to do it, right? I don't think you use credit cards. You shouldn't be.
Well, you're connected to like a PayPal, which would be connected to a card.
Well, I hope you can't use credit cards to do it. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, of course.
Like I know with cannabis in New Jersey, you can't use credit cards. You have to use. I don't think you use credit cards.
I mean, what are people paying with?
It's cash or debit. Yeah, you can't use credit cards. Yeah, they don't want you charging up $2,000 worth of weed, and then charge back in or whatever, and saying like, "Hey, I didn't make that purchase," and then they screw you. Well, anyway, all right, we'll stay off of the adult lines, John B, and get a Google account and check in. New comments are coming in, so get your Google account and check in.
Fine.
And comment on everything you're hearing in the future. All right, well,
I'll be more I'll be more prepared if I'm a guest again.
No, you've been very prepared. You've been very prepared. I actually need. So when I envision doing this, I envision John being the producer, and like another person and John being the producer, like getting clips ready to play as we're talking about them, sharing the screen and playing sound effects,
Right.
and chiming in. Because
Sure.
John always had very good radio instincts. He was a big Howard Stern fan and listened to. You were a big 610 WIP fan.
But I'll be
Right?
the first to admit I'm not good as a second fiddle like this. I need to be like third or fourth fiddle. Like in a Quentin Tarantino movie, I'm like the third
Right.
or fourth guy at the table.
So who would you have been in? Would you have been Fred Norris in on the Howard Stern show?
Probably closer to that, yes.
And Fred was a very important part of that show.
Yeah, sure. Or if it was
Love
like Reservoir Dogs, I'd be like Mr. Purple or something. Whatever the guys' names were.
Wait. Well, Quentin Tarantino, he got killed first, right? He didn't have a primetime part of. He was killed early. It's not like he was Mr.
Right.
White or Mr. whoever
Right.
or Joe. I haven't seen that movie in years.
I know. I just happened to stumble upon it on one of the cable stations is running it lately.
Does it hold up?
Yeah.
Or is it,
No,
it does?
actually
It's not a little bit slower, campy.
No, but it is weird when you see some of those old movies like Pulp Fiction. It's almost like running into an old friend, like someone you hadn't seen in 20 years, and somehow you know all the lines. Like,
Right.
it's comforting, but it actually holds up. Those movies hold up. Sometimes these movies.
Pulp Fiction definitely does. Like all right. So for instance, Roadhouse doesn't.
That's a whole different thing.
Point Break does. Like Point Break's still a little bit campy, but Point Break's a good movie. Roadhouse sucks. You watch that movie, unintentional comedy. You're laughing at it.
Well, it's like an episode of the A-Team, basically. It's like watching that. Did they make a Point Break remake? Somebody?
Yeah, they made. Yeah, of course they did.
I never saw it though.
Me neither. So I never saw Dukes of Hazzard or any of that crap, or Longest Yard with Adam Sandler. When I talk about football movies, you'll get some of the younger people to be like, "Yo, Longest Yard's great." With Adam Sandler, it'd be like, "Man, fuck him. That movie sucks." Original, you got to watch.
Speaking of sports movies, I find it's a shame that they still make boxing movies. Like boxing itself has very little mainstream appeal, but it's such a great plot device that they still make boxing movies, but nobody watches actual boxing.
Of course, I mean, yeah, think about it. You could have complicated characters, right? There's a training process. You have the actual bouts. Like, look at Rocky.
Right.
Wait, Raging Bull was less about boxing, but that was a great movie.
No, but I mean, even now, every 6 months, there's some new movie based on a boxer.
You know, I mean, speaking of that, I tried to watch Barbie, and I was one of these guys. It was like, oh, it's fun. Like, take your wife during the craze when people were going to see Barbie. What was the other movie they were going to see? It's like you were supposed to do both. One was a Pearl Harbor movie.
Oh, Oppenheimer?
Yeah, Oppenheimer. So it's like you do the Oppenheimer Barbie thing where you go see
two
both.
Completely different ends of the spectrum, but go ahead.
I think you need nuclear war to watch Barbie because I haven't. I tried to make it through 5 minutes and I couldn't. And I think it's like it wasn't taking itself too seriously, but it was also like I don't want to watch this. I just don't have. I just like I have an hour. I'm not going to watch this. I'll watch something else. It was horrible.
Right.
You didn't see it, Barbie?
Barbie, no. But
Oppenheimer?
I actually did not see Oppenheimer. I'm just waiting
Me
for
neither.
it to show up on television.
Me neither. The last movie I saw was a Paw Patrol movie or something like that. It's the only movies I've seen recently.
You should end the show with the theme from the original sneak previews.
Of Paw Patrol?
No, I'm saying this. and end the show with the old sneak previews theme, Siskel and Ebert.
Oh, see, I just remember them. I don't remember the music for it or whatever.
The theme songs, yeah.
The theme songs. I remember theme songs of TV shows, but I don't really remember that. All right. Well, John, listen, man, thank you. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Are your kids old enough to have friends who come over and call you Mr. Marks?
Now you do the Mr. John now.
Oh, is that what they do? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you get an occasional Mr. Marks. It normally comes from the dad being like, say thank you to Mr. Marks. But really, like the moms always say Mr. John or,
okay,
Miss Liz, even though she's married.
Mr. Radio Celebrity.
Yeah, the kids don't know that. And by the way, I'm unemployed right now with no income coming in.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, all right, Barbetta. Or I'm sorry. All right, John. Thank you. All right, everybody. There he is. Yeah, so we'll do it again this week. Herb's going to join us. Who else did I have here on the list that I was going to ask? I don't know. Some people. We'll have fun with it. Subscribe, comment, watch. If this is the first time you're tuning in, we had 3 really, really good episodes with Jamie Lynch, Herb from Northeast Philly, and how am I forgetting Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad, which was awesome. So check that out. They are available to view. Until then, see ya.